A boy named Abel. Let's begin our story. Before the world knew the Weeknd, he was just a boy. His name was Abel Makinen Tesfaye. He was born on February 16, 1990, in Toronto, Canada. His parents were from Ethiopia, a country in East Africa. They moved to Canada to find a better life. Abel grew up in a neighborhood called Scarborough. His family was small. He lived with his mother and grandmother. His father left the family when Abel was a baby, so he did not grow up with his dad. This made him feel sad and alone sometimes. At home, they spoke Amharic, not English. Abel's first language was not English. He had to learn it later. His mother worked a lot. She had 2 or 3 jobs. She cleaned houses and worked in hospitals. She was very tired, but she tried her best. She wanted Abel to have a good life. Abel watched a lot of TV and movies, but many times he turned off the sound. He watched with no voice, only pictures. Why? Because he wanted to learn English by watching people's faces and reading subtitles. He was a smart kid, but school was not easy. He didn't feel like he belonged. He often felt different from other children. He didn't like the rules. He didn't like tests. He wanted something else. But there was one thing he loved: music. At home, he listened to many artists. He loved Michael Jackson. He listened to Dirty Diana again and again. He said, "Michael Jackson showed me how to sing with emotion." He also liked Prince, R. Kelly, and Ethiopian music. Sometimes he would sing to himself, but he didn't tell anyone. Music was his little secret. Even as a child, music was his escape. It helped him feel less lonely. Music was his escape. As Abel got older, his love for music grew stronger. He didn't just listen. He started to dream. At school, Abel felt out of place. He was quiet and didn't talk much. Other kids went to parties or played sports. But Abel stayed home. He listened to CDs. He watched music videos. He imagined what it would be like to perform on stage. He said, "I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a doctor. I just wanted to sing." Sometimes he would sing in the mirror. He pretended he was in a concert. There were no fans, no lights, but in his heart, he could hear the crowd. Musical note music was his best friend. Musical note music didn't judge him. Musical note music didn't leave him. At age 11 or 12, Abel started writing his own lyrics. He didn't show anyone. It was private. It was his way to express himself. But Abel also had hard times. He started hanging out with the wrong crowd. He skipped school often. Sometimes he didn't go to class for weeks. He tried smoking. He tried drugs. At first, it was just to have fun. But later, it became a way to forget pain. He said, "We were kids without fathers. We were looking for something. We didn't know what." At age 17, Abel made a big decision. He dropped out of high school. He didn't tell his mom. One day, he just left. He packed a small bag. He said goodbye to no one. And then he was gone. He moved to downtown Toronto with 2 friends. They shared a small apartment. They had no money. They had no jobs. Abel said, "We had no plan. We just knew we didn't want to be at home anymore." They ate cheap food. They stole from stores. Sometimes they couldn't pay rent. Sometimes they had no heat in winter. But Abel was free. He could do anything. He could stay up late. He could make music all night. And that's what he did. He began to record simple songs. He used a laptop and a microphone. He played around with sounds. He wrote about heartbreak, drugs, and loneliness. He still didn't call himself a singer. He was just a guy with big feelings and no place to go. But something was starting. Something new. Something powerful. Leaving home early. Abel's decision to leave home at 17 changed his life forever. He left without warning. No goodbye, no note. Just gone. His mother didn't know where he was. She was scared. But Abel needed space. He needed freedom. He moved into a small apartment with 2 friends. The place was old. It was not clean. They had 1 bed, 1 couch, and no money. Some days, they didn't eat much. They smoked. They drank. They tried to forget the world. Abel said, "It was dark, but it was real. That was life for us." He felt lost, but he also felt alive. He was free from school, free from rules. Now, he could focus on music. They turned one room into a studio. They used old computers and cheap microphones. At night, they wrote songs. In the morning, they slept. Abel began to record his voice. He didn't sound like other singers. His voice was soft, smooth, and full of emotion. He sang about what he knew. Life without a father. Feeling broken. Making mistakes. Wanting love. Using drugs to forget. These were not happy songs. But they were honest. Musical note, he didn't want to be a pop star. Musical note, he wanted to make music that felt true. At that time, Abel didn't use his real name. He created a name, The Weeknd. He dropped the E because another artist already had the name. The name meant something to him. He had left school on a weekend. He had never gone back. Now he was The Weeknd. He didn't want people to know who he was. So, when he uploaded his songs online, he didn't show his face. No photo. No name. Just the music. In 2010, he posted 3 songs on YouTube. What You Need. Loft Music. The Morning. People didn't know who sang them. But they felt something. The music was dark, deep, and different. Slowly, music blogs started to notice. They called the sound mystery R&B. They wanted to know who was behind it. But The Weeknd stayed quiet. He didn't do interviews. He didn't go on stage. He just made more music. In 2011, he released a mixtape, House of Balloons. It was free online. It had 9 songs. All of them were emotional and strange. But people loved them. The Weeknd became an underground star. He had no label, no big team, just raw talent. Famous rapper Drake, also from Toronto, heard the songs. He loved them. He called The Weeknd and said, "Let's work together." Suddenly, everything changed, starting from the bottom. In 2011, The Weeknd's name started to spread. People still didn't know who he was. He had no music videos, no pictures, just a voice on the internet. But his songs were special. They were slow, smooth, and full of emotion. They spoke to people who felt sad, lost, or broken. The mixtape House of Balloons got great reviews. Headphone Music Blog said, "This is the future of R&B." Soon, a big artist from Toronto noticed him. It was Drake. Drake was already famous. He had millions of fans. He reached out to The Weeknd and said, "I like your music. Let's work together." The Weeknd said yes. Drake invited him to write songs. He helped him meet new producers. He brought The Weeknd on stage for the first time. It was scary. The Weeknd had never sung live in front of a crowd. But people loved him. Now, more people wanted to know, who is this guy? Why is he so mysterious? Later that year, The Weeknd released 2 more mixtapes. Thursday, Echoes of Silence. Each mixtape had a different sound. But the feelings were the same, dark, honest, and emotional. The Weeknd didn't sound like anyone else. He was not pop. He was not hip-hop. He was something new. Musical note, his songs talked about pain and pleasure. Musical note, about love and loneliness. Musical note, about drugs, fame, and feelings. People started to follow him. They wanted more. They felt his music in their hearts. In 2012, all 3 mixtapes were put together into one album. Trilogy. This was his first official album. It had 30 songs. It was not free anymore, but people still bought it. Trilogy was not a hit on the radio, but it was loved by fans. The Weeknd was growing. He was still shy. He didn't like interviews. He didn't smile much. But he was real, and people respected that. He started to tour. He sang in small clubs, then in bigger places, then in cities across the world. He said, "I never thought people in Paris or London would know my name." But they did. He was no longer just a mystery. He was becoming a star. Still, The Weeknd didn't change much. He wore black clothes. He didn't talk too much. He let the music speak for him. And the music was loud and clear. Mixtapes to major fame. By 2013, The Weeknd was no longer a mystery artist on the internet. He had real fans. He had shows around the world. He had a voice that people remembered. But now he wanted to grow. He wanted to reach more people. He wanted to make an album for everyone. That year, he signed a deal with a big music label. This helped him work with more producers, more songwriters, and have more money for music videos. In 2013, he released his first studio album, Kissland. The sound was dark and electronic. The songs were deep, but not for radio. Some fans loved it. Some were not ready. The album didn't have big hits, but it helped The Weeknd learn and grow. He started to experiment more. He mixed R&B, pop, and electronic sounds. He tried new things. Then, in 2015, everything changed. He released a new album, Beauty Behind the Madness. This was the album that made him a global star. It had big songs like Can't Feel My Face, The Hills, Earned It. These songs played on every radio. People danced to them in clubs. They were on the charts for weeks. Microphone Can't Feel My Face was fun and funky. Microphone The Hills was dark and heavy. Microphone Earned It was slow and sexy. It was also in a movie. The album went platinum. It won awards. And now, everyone knew The Weeknd. He went from small clubs to big arenas. He started to tour around the world. People loved his voice. They loved his hair. It was wild and different. He became a fashion icon too. But inside, he was still the same quiet boy from Toronto. Superstardom and struggles. Fame is powerful, but it can also be dangerous. After his big success in 2015, The Weeknd became very famous. He was on TV. He was on magazine covers. He was in commercials. He dated other famous people. People followed his every move. But fame brought stress. More shows. Less sleep. More pressure to stay on top. He said, I lost myself for a little while. He used drugs to escape the pressure. He worked all night. He barely rested. But he also kept creating. In 2016, he released another big album, Starboy. This album was futuristic and powerful. He worked with the group Daft Punk. Together, they made the song Starboy, which became a worldwide hit. Musical Notes: the music video showed him breaking the old version of himself. Musical Notes: he cut off his famous hair. Musical Notes: it was a symbol, a new beginning. The album had many hits. Starboy, I Feel It Coming. Party Monster. He sang on TV. He won Grammy Awards. He became one of the biggest names in music. But behind the lights, he was still fighting with himself. He wanted love. He wanted peace. In interviews, he stayed quiet. He didn't like talking too much. He said, music is my therapy. It helps me understand my life. After Hours and a global hit. In 2020, The Weeknd released a new album, After Hours. This album changed everything again. It was deep. It was personal. It was painful. He sang about heartbreak, fame, and loss. He told the story through a character, a man in a red jacket with a bruised face. He appeared this way in all his music videos, TV shows, and concerts. It was like a movie. The songs told a story. Heartless, Save Your Tears, In Your Eyes, and the biggest one, Blinding Lights. Blinding Lights became a worldwide hit. It broke many records. It stayed on the charts for 90 weeks. It became the most streamed song ever on Spotify as of 2023. Headphone: the sound was bright, fast, and retro, like the 1980s. Headphone: people loved it during the pandemic. Headphone: it gave them hope. The Weeknd did not get any Grammy nominations for After Hours. People were shocked. Even he was surprised. He said, the Grammys mean nothing now. But he didn't stop. In 2021, he performed at the Super Bowl halftime show. Over 100 million people watched it live. He performed alone. He didn't bring any guest stars. He sang live, ran through mirrors, and danced with dozens of people in masks. It was one of the most talked about Super Bowl shows ever. Giving back and growing up. Today, The Weeknd is more than a singer. He is a voice for his generation. He still makes music. He still sings about pain and love. But he is also thinking about the world. He gives money to schools and health programs. He supports people in Ethiopia, his parents' home country. He gave $1 million to help during war and famine. He supports education, medicine, and food programs. He wants to make life better for others. In 2022, he released Dawn FM, a new album with a new sound. In this album, he imagined the afterlife as a radio station. It was artistic and strange, but fans loved it. The Weeknd also acted in a show called The Idol. It got mixed reviews, but it showed he was trying new things. He said, "I don't want to be just The Weeknd forever. I want to grow." He started using his real name more, Abel Tesfaye. He told fans that maybe one day, The Weeknd will end, and a new version of him will begin. He is no longer that shy boy from Toronto. He is a man who lived many lives in one lifetime. His story is not just about music. It's about pain, choices, growth, and purpose. Microphone, and through it all, he never stopped singing.